So today we are going to speak about a very specific topic, that is the morality of transgender surgeries for minors. So sorry if I'm catching you off guard. If you're a guest, God bless you, but this is, sometimes we go there, we deal with real topics. And there's two reasons why we're doing it today, because Jesus says in the gospel, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And secondly, transgenderism is growing so quickly, and a lot of us are talking about it. Our children are talking about it, and there is this pressure to accept this worldview. But because we love Jesus, we're trying to love all people. We want to speak about God's vision for the human person, which includes the body. And Pope Francis himself has been very strong in speaking out against this issue, because he too is trying to follow Jesus' commandments. We're focusing on this very specific issue because transgenderism, it's a big issue. It's very broad. And my hope is that whatever we think about the broad issue, at least we can all agree we should love all people. And hopefully at the end of this, maybe we could agree that surgery for children is not the right way to go. St. Peter writes in the second reading, "Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and reverence." Okay, the hope. What's the hope? It's the good news of Jesus. So God has created us. God is our Father. And when He created us, He also created our bodies. Our bodies are good. Now, we separate ourselves from Him, but He redeems us, and He doesn't just redeem our souls, He redeems our bodies. So the body is good, and being made male and female is part of His plan. The male and female is good. And the context for this first letter of St. Peter is the years between 64 and 68 AD. What's happening at that time is Emperor Nero, the Roman emperor, he's persecuting the Christians. And one Roman historian at the time by the name of Tacitus, we still have some of his writings, he said that Christians were hated for their abominations. What are their abominations? One of them was they wouldn't sacrifice to Roman gods. Why? Because they love Jesus. And so St. Peter's telling them, you've got to explain why. But when you do it with gentleness and reverence. So in the same way, if we're going to speak about these issues regarding transgenderism, we want to speak about it with gentleness and reverence, with love. A few years ago, I did a funeral here, and a number of transgender people came, which was great. And I just try to love them like I love everyone. There is no difference. And it was wonderful that they came to a Catholic church. We respected each other. We probably disagree on a number of things, but there is that wonderful respect. So again, that's the way it should be. When we speak about this issue, we want to be dispassionate. We want to try to be calm and just search for the truth and do it in love. The starting point for morality for surgery for children is what's called the principle of bodily integrity. That principle states that it is not right to remove healthy organs. If your organs are healthy, you should not try to remove them. So it would be wrong to cut off the healthy breasts of a young girl who is a minor. It's wrong to cut off the penis of a boy who is a minor. When someone's anorexic, we don't confirm them in their belief that they're overweight. We want to love them and support them and try to help them see they're not overweight. Also, minors are too young to make this life-altering decision. The reason why it's against the law for minors to drink, to drive below the age of 16, is because they can't consider all the consequences of their decisions. And Dr. Deborah So, she's a Canadian with a doctorate in sexology, sex neuroscience. She's not religious, she's not conservative, but she wrote a whole book called The End of Gender about how society is denying science. And she says, across all 11 long-term studies ever done on gender dysphoric children, between 60 and 90% desist by puberty, meaning they no longer feel dysphoric. And she also says, even with more stringent criteria, it's still possible that children who say they are the opposite sex will end up desisting one day. Now, what about for the children who persist? They still feel that dysphoria. Now, she says, and she even believes that surgery at some point would be right. I don't believe that. But she says, even for children, still you have to wait before they do surgery. Why? Because today they're not getting the proper diagnosis to find out if they're ideal candidates for surgery. We always hear from the mainstream media and from our government the positive stories of those who transition. We're always told there are no problems, and we listen to them because we're looking for the truth. We should also listen to the stories of people who detransition. We're going to show in a few seconds a video of one of the more famous detransitioners, Chloe Cole. And she is very well known because she's suing the care consortium who hurt her. Now, this video is very instructive. It shows a part of the truth. But just to let you know, there are some sad pictures in it. It's not truly graphic. There will be pictures, videos of the post-surgery of women who have had double mastectomies. But this is what a lot of our children are viewing. So just to let you know, that's coming.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I'm an 18-year-old detransitioner from the Central Valley of California. I started socially transitioning and identifying as transgender when I was 12 years old, and I was fast-tracked onto medicalization at 13, starting with puberty blockers and testosterone, before I went on to get a mastectomy at 15, and I stopped transitioning at 16 when I realized that I had regretted my transition and that it was starting to cause me emotional and also physical harm. My parents actually had pushed back on me medically transitioning at first, but the team of the medical professionals that helped me to push me really to transition never presented any other options. They said that the rate of regret is less than 1 or 2%, and they even lied to my parents that I would be at risk of suicide were I not allowed to transition. My medical transition lasted for about 3.5 years, and during that period of time, there was really only one doctor who pushed back on it, and that was the first endocrinologist who I saw in order to get hormones. He told me and my mom that there would be risks for my brain development, but immediately after I was just referred to another endocrinologist, and after only about 6 months of being diagnosed with dysphoria, I was placed on puberty blockers and then testosterone a month or so after that. I had been sexually assaulted in my 8th grade year, and that prompted me to start hiding that area of my body. I mean, I didn't even recognize it as sexual assault, and I didn't realize how much it really had affected me. But I bought my first binder about a week after that happened. In my sophomore year, that was when I really started to consider surgery, and I brought this up to my my therapist, and I was referred to a gender specialist before being referred to a surgeon. I had been diagnosed with social anxiety and depression, and my mental state was rapidly declining, and my grades were really starting to suffer. And somehow this wasn't considered when I went to surgery. It was only about half a year between being referred to that surgeon and actually going under the knife. After I had to get the stitches taken out and I had to start doing my dressings, that is when reality started to hit. Every single night, after every bath, after every shower, I would have to look down at these huge wounds. I mean, I was told that this would be part of the process, but you don't really understand just how much of a toll it will take on you. I missed little things about being a girl. Sometimes when nobody was home, I would put on makeup or wear some of my old girl clothes. But I was ashamed of it, and I never told anybody about it. But I kept struggling with these feelings, and I continued to get worse. I had to eventually drop out of school and go into an alternative program in which I was taking a psychology class. And there was one lesson that was about parenting, maternity, and the development of a child into teenhood. One of the most important parts of the lesson that really stood out to me was breastfeeding and how important physical affection how that bond is important to the emotional and cognitive development of a child and how they function later in social situations. I mean, before that, I never really thought about being a parent or breastfeeding. It was then that I realized that something beautiful and uniquely female was taken away from me forever. And I was perfectly healthy before that. I was only a kid. I don't think the biggest problem with my transition was that I regretted it. What's more damaging was that they lied to me and my parents. They coerced my parents into allowing me to do this. They withheld a lot of information from us. But even then, at the age I was, I just wasn't capable of giving informed consent. And it's seriously affected both my mental and physical health. I'm still recovering to this day. I don't know if I'll be able to conceive a child or safely carry to term, and I certainly won't be able to breastfeed. And the people that did this to me need to be held accountable.
At least 24 states in the United States are trying to restrict or ban these mutilations of children. And last year we showed a video how the Tavistock Gender Clinic in the United Kingdom was going to be shut down, and it was shut down last August. The same video reported that a Swedish hospital known for its gender care stopped surgeries and puberty blockers for those under 16. In 2021, Finland's medical guidelines started opposing most puberty blocking and adolescent transitioning, and this past March 9th, the Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board ruled that hormone therapy and gender reassignment surgery for minors would be restricted to research settings. So there is a lot of science out there showing this is not good for children. Dr. Erin Brewer identified as transgender for years as a child because when she was 5, she was sexually assaulted by 2 men who brought her and her brother into a bathroom, but they only sexually assaulted her, not her brother. Subconsciously, because of that, she resented being a girl. So she changed her name to Timothy and acted like a boy for years. During this time, her teachers and counselors gently supported her, but never affirmed her as a boy. It was only in high school that she was able to bring up this trauma and she began to heal. She now gives talks, and Dr. Brewer in a recent talk made 3 good points. First point, she believes that almost every woman experiences some discomfort with their body, especially around puberty, because a woman's body goes through so many hormonal, physical changes. So this is a painful but normal part of development. Yet people now say to girls, "Oh, you feel uncomfortable in your body? We'll change it." That explains why the vast majority of adolescents who want to transition are girls. And what we should do is support girls through these discomforts. Second point, the suicide claim. No one wants anyone to kill themselves. And Dr. Brewer says, telling people the truth is not anti-transgender. Quote, "In no other case do we say, if someone is suicidal, we're going to give them what they want. A truly suicidal person is not capable of consent, And so they're not capable of making these big decisions about transitioning. And a person named Erin Kimberly, a Canadian who was born a woman and has undergone a sex change and who is a registered nurse, this transgender man says this.
Well, what's being sold to the families is that these kids will all commit suicide if they're not medicalized. So parents are being told that, and there's no evidence to that effect. So I think it's really inappropriate to tell families that when we have there's no evidence that there's a direct path from not being immediately medicalized and suicide. I mean, there is evidence that people with this condition are more likely to have other mental health issues like depression and anxiety, and are on average have more suicidal ideation. But we can't say for certain that suicidal ideation is directly because of the gender dysphoria. We don't know that. I mean, the suicidality rates are higher for any mental health condition, including kids that have, ADHD, autism, any number of other conditions, social isolation, or being gay or lesbian. But there's certainly no evidence that these kids are all going to act on those thoughts if they're not immediately medicalized. So that's really, I think, a kind of emotional blackmail for these parents who are now afraid that if I don't go along with this and accept these treatments, that my child is
I'm going to lose my child.
And the third point of Dr. Brewer, I think the most beautiful. She says, when my daughter was born, it was the first time in my life that I was proud of myself and my body and really happy to be a woman, because I was able to create this beautiful person. And I just looked at her and I was like, my body must be okay because it made this wonderful baby. And she's absolutely right. The transgender question is a big issue, and today we've started with perhaps the simplest moral part. People are going to talk about all aspects of this issue. Hopefully we can just focus, and maybe we can start with this question. Could we at least agree that cutting off the healthy body parts of children is wrong? St. Peter writes, "Do not be intimidated, but in your hearts sanctify Christ as Lord." And that means to show him reverence. Because we know that Jesus is God, and because of him we try to love all people, we need to share the truth. When it comes to transgender surgery for children, we should not harm them, but protect them.